6:30 on the 6th of August, 2014, the Platting Board will come to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mr. Story? Mr. Abel?
Here.
Mr. Fuller?
Excused.
Mr. Young?
Present.
Mr. Cole? Mr. Kange?
Present.
Mr. Edmondson?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Here.
Ms. Enix? Thank you.
Thank you. We have a quorum tonight. And the first item on the agenda is action summaries of July 16th, Wednesday, July 16th. May I have a positive motion, please? Yes. Oh, no. Pardon me. First item, or next item is action summaries. May I have a positive motion to accept the action summaries of July 16th, please? Mr. Kange has moved. Mr. Abel seconds. Is there any discussion or any opposition to this motion? Any changes? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Next item is the minutes, and we have no minutes to approve tonight. Next item is special orders of business is disclosures. Are there disclosures tonight? Mr. Edmondson and then Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In case S12086 Cherokee Ridge subdivision, my firm, the Peterson Group, has business dealings with the petitioner, Holquist Homes, White Raven Development, on other project, and I feel like I need to disclose that. We have no personal or financial interest or business interest in the case before us tonight, and I feel like I can act impartially in this case.
Thank you. May I have a positive motion directing Mr. Edmondson to participate? Mr. Kange, and second by Mr. Walker. Mr. Kange, will you state your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regard to case S12086, I direct Mr. Edmondson to participate in the case.
Thank you. Would you speak to your motion, please?
Thank you. Based on Mr. Edmondson's statement, he has no personal or financial interest in the case. I believe that he can act fairly and tend to support my motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion or opposition? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Mr. Edmondson, you're directed to participate. Mr. Edmondson, do you have any additional disclosures?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Mr. Cole.
Thank you. In case S-12086, I have very peripheral dealings with Holquist Homes that are part of my law practice and have nothing to do with real estate or platting. It has nothing to do with this matter. I have no interest in it monetarily, and I feel I can be fair and impartial.
Thank you. May I have a positive motion directing Mr. Cole to participate, please? Mr. Kange and Mr. Walker seconds.
Again, thank you. Through the chair, in regard to case S12086, I move to direct Mr. Cole to participate in the case.
Thank you. And any discussion or?
Based on Mr. Cole's testimony that he has no personal or financial interest in the case before the body and can act fairly in the case, I tend to support this motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries, and you are directed to participate in case 12086 Cherokee Ridge subdivision. Any additional disclosures tonight? I have two. in case S12086 Cherokee Ridge subdivision, lots 1 through 4. My firm has ongoing business dealings with the petitioner. We have also had business with the petitioner's representative on other matters. I have no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board tonight. I can remain impartial in fact and action as a member of this board without personal bias. My past involvement and personal interests will not prevent me from fairly evaluating the facts of this case. May I have a positive motion directing me to participate in the Cherokee Ridge subdivision case, please? Mr. Kange and Mr. Walker seconds. Mr. Kange, will you state your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, in case S12086, I move to direct Chairman Young to participate in the case. Based on his statement that he has no personal or financial interest in the case and he can act impartial in the case, I tend to support this motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, I'm directed to participate in case S12086 Cherokee Ridge subdivision. I also have a disclosure in case S12088 Campbell Creek Commercial Edition 1 Tracks 1 B and C. My firm has had business dealings with the petitioner's representative on other matters. I have no financial or personal interest in the matters before the board. I can remain impartial in fact and action as a member of this board without personal bias. My past involvement and personal interests will not prevent me from fairly evaluating the facts of this case. May I have a positive motion directing me to participate in case 12088? Mr. Kange. Mr. Walker seconds. Mr. Kange, will you state your motion, please?
Thank you. In case S12088, I direct Chairman Young to participate in the case.
And would you speak to your motion, please?
Based on Chairman Young's testimony that he has no financial or personal interest in the case, I believe he can act fairly and hear the matter before the body, so I tend to support my motion.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. I'm directed to participate. Next item on the agenda. We have informational items, the abbreviated plat action summaries for June 30th, 2014, July 7th, and July 14th, and July 21st. Are there any comments on this informational documents? Hearing and seeing none, we will move forward. We have nothing on the consent agenda tonight, no old business. We're now in new business. The procedures, this is for everyone in the public who is here tonight. The procedures which the public may speak to the Platting Board at its meeting is, after the staff presentation is completed on public hearing items, the chair will ask for public testimony on the issue. Persons who wish to testify will follow the time limits established in the Commission Rules of Procedure. Petitioners, including all of her representatives, have 10 minutes. Part of this time may be reserved in advance for rebuttal. Any time that remains can also be used for rebuttal. So if you want to reserve time, let me know at the very beginning. And if you don't use all your time, either way, you'll have rebuttal time. Representatives of groups, community councils, PTAs, etc., have 5 minutes. Individuals have 3 minutes. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions by the board. You may only testify once on any issue unless questioned by the board. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the Platting Board takes. Appeal of this decision or any of the conditions is governed by AMC 21.11.304. The decision of the board and its scheduled public hearing shall become final 7 calendar days after the date the decision is made on the record, unless a written request is submitted to the Planning Division prior to the expiration of the 7th day to prepare a written decision based upon the record made at the hearing, and the request is accompanied by a written notice of intent to appeal. Adoption of the written decision by the Platting Board becomes the final appealable decision. Within 20 days of the final appealable decision, an interested party must file with the municipal clerk either a written motion alleging new evidence or changed circumstances per AMC 21.11.503, or an appeal of the board's final appealable decision per AMC 21.30. The first case tonight is Cherokee Ridge Subdivision, case S12086. May we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This preliminary plat is a request for subdivision of one tract of land into 4 lots with a variance from AMC 21.08.030K4D design standards. Lot dimensions: the width of a flagpole portion of a flag-shaped lot shall be no less than 24 feet when the lot is located in the R6, R8, R9, R10, or TA districts and will not be served by either public water or public sewer. The plat is being done in preparation for development of the subject parcels as residential properties. You may have noticed that this case is being reviewed under the new code, new Title 21. The proposed lots meet the minimum lot size and width required for the R6 zoning district. With this platting action, the petitioner will be dedicating a 50-foot right-of-way for Elmore Road. This portion of Elmore Road is owned by the state of Alaska. The petitioner is required to obtain a state DOT approval for access onto Elmore. Access to the subject parcels will come via a single shared driveway from Elmore Road. The petitioner has proposed 2 15-foot wide access easements on lots 2 and 3. Because the access is to be taken via a single driveway, the petitioner will be required to dedicate access easements on lots 1 and 4 to ensure that all lots within this subdivision have legal access. With this request, or with this subdivision, the petitioner is also requesting a variance, as stated before. There are 4 standards required to be met for the granting of a variance, and I'll go through each standard separately. Standard number 1, staff finds this standard to be met. The existing property is 4.65 acres and 330 feet in width. While the property is large enough to subdivide into 4 lots, the width does not allow for the creation of 2 150-foot wide lots and 2 24-foot wide flagpole lots. The petitioner has provided a reasonable alternative by dedicating 15-foot wide access easements on lots 2 and 4. This will ensure that all lots within the subdivision are provided suitable access. Standard number 2, staff finds this standard to be met. The granting of this variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other property in the area. All properties in the area are provided access to publicly dedicated roads and will not be harmed in any way as a result of this variance. Standard number 3, staff finds that this standard is met. The granting of this requested variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent or purpose of the subdivision regulations. The intent behind the minimum flagpole width is to ensure that each property is provided access. With the dedication of the access easements, the petitioner has met the intent of the subdivision regulations. Standard number 4, staff finds this standard to be met. Strict compliance with the subdivision regulations would deny the petitioner the opportunity to develop the property to its full potential. Development of this property as proposed is not unlike other development in the area. Directly north of the property are 2 such subdivisions that have narrow, long flag lots that do not meet current municipal code requirements. However, it should be noted that these subdivisions appear to have been approved in error as variances were not granted. Staff has reviewed the petitioner's request for preliminary plat approval and found that it generally conforms to the dimensional standards and measurements of chapters 2107, 2108, and the approval criteria of 2103. So with that being said, staff would like to recommend approval of the variance and plat for 24 months subject to the conditions listed on pages 7 and 8 of your staff packet. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Mr. Kange.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield. I know the petitioner's representative mentioned in his letter that he had spoken to the O'Malley Community Council. Did you receive any comments from them other than what's stated in the letter from S4 Group?
Through the chair, Mr. Kange, no, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Edmondson.
Through the chair, Mr. Whitfield, I just see on page 37, there's some comments from the long-range planning section regarding flag lots and alternative lot layouts, and they're recommending denial of the variance and recommend that the applicant revise the residential subdivision based on the alternative residential subdivision options as outlined in their letter. Were those options pursued or looked at, or can you give me just a little insight on their comments maybe and the options that they were recommending and whether they were reviewed with the petitioner?
Through the chair, Mr. Edmondson, you know, we did look at alternatives on this site. However, considering, you know, what this site is, I'm not sure that the alternatives are really reasonable. I feel like the petitioner has made the attempt to provide suitable access to all 4 lots by dedicating the access easements, and that is really the intent behind the flagpole portions. I think they're meeting the general intent of the subdivision regulations, and from a planning and platting perspective, I think it works well in this particular instance. There may be other instances where it doesn't work, but in this particular one, I think it's reasonable. So I would say I disagree with the long-range planning's comments here.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Before I open the public hearing, I have one question, possibly two. In case S12089 Meadow Dawn subdivision, is anyone here tonight for this case? Is anyone here for the Fairview subdivision extension? We may proceed. Okay, may I have the petitioner's representative or the petitioner approach the podium? State your name for the record, please. Spell your last name for us.
Good evening. My name is Tom Dreher. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, planning staff, and concerned members of the public behind me. I represent the petitioner tonight, White Raven Development, in the case of S12086, and I'd like to leave 4 minutes of reserved time. I'll just start right off in response to some of the questions that came up. The first is on page 50. There's a response from the typed out response from the Huffman O'Malley Community Council. I tried to get them to write something. I was at the meeting, but it's really hard to get them to write something. They were real happy, pleased to see that we're doing just 4 large lots in our 6th subdivision. And in response to the long-range planner thing on the conservation neighborhoods, those are really designed for areas, at least on the hillside, where you have sewer and water, where you can actually reduce the square footage of the lots. Unfortunately, in this kind of area where you don't have sewer and water, the DEC Title 15 65180A states that the minimum area of any lot must be 40,000 square feet within the lot lines. So if you're looking at acre lots, there's 2 of these are 43,560 square feet or so. You don't really have room to give that 30%. It just doesn't work in this type of situation. Staff has been great to work with on this. As you can tell, we try and hammer out all the little details and things before we get here. We are fine with all the department recommendations on page 7 and 8. And you should also note that we have granted the 15-foot easements on the lots, but then there's 15-foot flags too, so we actually have a total of 60 foot of easement. We got plenty enough room in there to service the 4 lots, and we've agreed to of course, the 4 driveways coming into 1 driveway. That made sense from the very beginning, coming out onto the road there. So with that, I will make myself available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. You have 7 minutes and 38 seconds left for rebuttal tonight.
Thank you.
Is there any questions of the petitioner's representative? Thank you.
Okay.
And we'll now open this up to public. Is anyone here from the public wishing to testify tonight? Hearing and seeing no one, it's time for rebuttal.
I'll just make myself available for any questions. I think we've covered everything pretty well.
Any questions for the petitioner or the petitioner's representative? Guess not.
Thank you.
Looks like they have it.
I may take note that this is a new code and actually did work out to, I think, everybody's advantage.
Good.
Except for the hassle putting on the community meetings. That's another issue we can talk about at some other meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing portion is closed. The matter now rests with the board. May I have a positive motion? Mr. Cole and Ms. Enoch seconds. Mr. Cole, will you state your motion, please?
Excuse me, in case S-12086 Cherokee Ridge subdivision lots 1 through 4, I would move to approve the request for a variance under AMC 2108-030K.4.D, subject to the conditions that it be they record a suitable plat within 24 months of its approval.
Thank you. Would you speak to your motion, please?
I intend to vote for this motion. I do so based upon the evidence that we've received, including the staff's analysis at page 4 through 7, which I will address, and in addition, the evidence that we've heard from the petitioner today. With regard to the variance request, I believe there are special circumstances or conditions affecting the property that the strict application of the provisions would clearly be impractical, unreasonable, or undesirable. But given the nature of this particular parcel of property and the requirements under DEC, this seems reasonable. A granting of the number 2, granting of the specific variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. I feel that's supported by both staff's testimony and the petitioner. Number 3, a variance will not have an effect of nullifying the intent or the purpose of the subdivision regulations or the comprehensive plans of the municipality. In fact, the evidence we've heard tonight is just the opposite. And 4, undue hardship would result from the strict compliance with the specific provisions that was testified to. So under those facts and circumstances, I would vote for this motion.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Any additional findings? I will, I'll make mine. I too will be supporting this, and I found that staff has found that this property generally, or plat generally conforms to dimensional standards and measurements of Chapter 2107, and the development design standards in 2108, subdivision standards and approval criteria of 2103. Also, on page, for findings on page 50, there is a public comment from the Huffman O'Malley Community Council, and they state that they have no objections to the petitioner's request in this case. So for those additional reasons, I will be supporting this. Is there any additional discussion? Any opposition to this motion? This motion, hearing and seeing none, this motion carries. Passes. Congratulations. Oh, excuse me. Yes, we also need to do the second part. I need a motion for the plat approval. We've got the variance. Mr. Cole.
Case number S12086, I move to approve the plat for 24 months subject to the conditions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it's a mistake. I believe it was supposed to be 6, but it says 4 on pages 7 and 8 of our package.
Thank you. Will you speak to your motion, please?
Again, I believe that the conditions requested address the issues that are raised in the package, and specifically the comments from the various committees in the package that we've received, and they appear to all be supported by the evidence that's presented, and with the approval of staff, I would approve, or I would be in favor of this motion.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments or findings? Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion carries. Now it's congratulations. Next case is S12088 Campbell Creek Commercial Edition 1, Tracks A, B, and C. May we have staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a request for a subdivision variance from AMC 2180-250 design standards for alleys. Dead-end alleys shall be prohibited. As you may have noticed, this is an old code review. On June 4, 2014, the Platting Board approved the vacation of a 20-foot by 150-foot portion of the alley right-of-way subject to obtaining a variance from AMC 2180-250 to allow this dead-end alley. Approval of this request will allow the petitioner to vacate that alleyway and move toward recording a final plat. As you're well aware of, it requires, variance requires 4 standards to be met. I'll go through each standard separately. Standard number 1, staff finds this standard to be met. The alley has been determined by the Platting Board to be surplus to municipal need. Petitioner has attempted to include the owner of Lot 1A in the vacation of the alley to vacate the entire length of that alley, but was unable to do so. This constitutes a special circumstance that makes strict application of the code unreasonable. Furthermore, because the remaining length of the dead-end alley is less than 150 feet, the traffic division expressed no objection to this vacation. Standard number 2, staff finds this standard to be met. The Traffic Engineering Division and all other reviewing agencies have expressed no objection to this variance request. The right-of-way as it exists currently is not improved to municipal standards, but all future improvements will be done to the latest code and safety regulations. Standard number 3, staff finds this standard to be met. The remaining alley is less than 150 feet in length. At a future date, the owners of Lot 1A could either apply to vacate that portion of the right-of-way that abuts their property, or let it remain as is and use the alley as an access point to their property. Standard number 4, staff finds this standard to be met. The granting of this variance will allow the improvement and development of this industrial zone land. Denying the variance would prevent the property owner from creating larger lots, as was proposed in the preliminary plat and approved and preliminarily approved by the Platting Board, and develop those lots in an efficient manner. So with that being said, seeing that all standards are met, staff would recommend approval of the variance subject to recording a suitable plat within 18 months of its approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions of staff? May we have the petitioner or the petitioner's representative approach? Again, state your name for the record. Spell your last name, please. And if you'd like to reserve time for rebuttal, now's a good time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to reserve 4 minutes for rebuttal. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, platting staff, and concerned members behind me. My name is Tom Dreyer. Dreyer spelled like the ice cream, D-R-E-Y-E-R. And I represent the petitioner, Hans Schwager, who is in the audience with me today. If you have any questions of him, you're welcome to call on him. On June 4, 2014, the Platting Board heard this case S1207 and approved the subdivision condition upon that the petitioner, quote, obtain a variance from AMC 2180-250 to allow dead-end alley or include the owners of Lot 1A and vacate an entire alley between East 55th and East 56th Avenue. This is an application for the variance, and Lot 1A, that piece to the west there, is owned by Walmart of Bentonville, Arkansas. As stated in the original subdivision application, the right-of-way and alley are both surplus to the MOA. East 55th Avenue does not serve any purpose currently except to provide access to the existing lot configuration. With the new lot configurations, all the parcels will be logically served by the Old Surt Highway to the west and Ingress Street to the east. Historically, East 55th and the alley were dedicated to right-of-way 1949 by plat number P163A. Then East 55th was vacated to the east of this parcel in 1972 by plat number 72-225. In 1968, on the western side of the Old Surt Highway, plat number 68-106 was recorded without dedicating East 55th. So there's not an extension of East 55th on the west side of the Old Surt Highway. What remains of East 55th today is a short piece that is not improved to MOA street standards, does not serve any connection purpose to the east or to the west, and historically has been vacated as development occurs and plats have been recorded. The alley being vacated does not serve any public function, and by it being vacated will allow substantial improvement to the area at the expense of the owners of the land, not by the MOA. The Traffic Engineering Department of the Municipality of Anchorage and the Anchorage Fire Department have approved this vacation. All future improvements will be as per the latest code and safety regulations in effect at the time of development. This remaining alley is less than 150 feet in length. It is expected that at a future date, the owners of Lot 1A will either apply to vacate the portion of the alley that abuts their property or let it remain as is and use the alley as an access point for their property. Either way, the approval of this variance will have only positive benefits for the neighbors and the surrounding and abutting property. Granting this variance will allow the improvement and development of valued industrially zoned land, and denying this variance would halt the improvement and development of the area that is now within the right-of-way of East 55th without any gain being realized for any party, the MOA, the surrounding environment, or abutting neighbors. And again, staff has mentioned that the Traffic Engineering Department and the Fire Department both support the variance for the alleyway for their stated reasons in the packet. And with that, I will make myself available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? You have 6 minutes, 49 seconds remaining for rebuttal.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the petitioner's representative or the petitioner? I don't see any. Before you sit down, is there anyone from the public? I don't see anyone from the public wishing to testify. No one's here from the public. You may use your time for rebuttal if you wish.
I'll make myself available for questions.
Is there questions of the petitioner or the petitioner's representative? Guess not.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. The public hearing portion of this meeting is closed. The matter now rests with the board. In the case S12088, may I have a positive motion? For approval of the variance. Mr. Cole and Mr. Walker seconds. Mr. Cole, will you state your motion, please?
Yes, through the chair, in case S-12088, Campbell Creek Commercial Edition, track, or Edition 1, track ABC, I move for the approval of the request for variance from AMC 2180-250, subject to the recording of a suitable plat within 18 months of its approval.
Thank you. And will you speak to your motion, please?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, I intend to vote in favor of this motion because I believe that the evidence which has been presented both through the package we've received from the staff, the information we've received from the petitioner, and the comments that we've received in our package uniformly and unanimously suggests that the variance should be granted in this case, specifically as to the 4 elements. There are special circumstances and conditions affecting the property that strict application of the provisions of the subdivision regulations would be clearly impractical, unreasonable, or undesirable. This is set forth in both the staff's presentation and in the evidence that we heard today. The granting of the specific variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious. We've had no objection by the various agencies on that element, and in fact, they've said there will be no, that it won't be detrimental. Number 3, the variance will not have the effect of nullifying the intent or purpose of the subdivision regulations or the comprehensive plan of municipality. The evidence was directly contrary to that, and undue hardship would result from the strict compliance. That was supported by both staff's statement and the statement of the petitioner. In addition, as the chair has noted, I did not see any objections posted in any of the comments that I saw, so it appears to me that this is supported by all the evidence that we have before us.
Thank you. Is there any additional discussion? Is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing and seeing none, the motion is granted and the variance is therefore granted. Congratulations. In the matter of case S12089 Meadow Dawn subdivision, may I have a positive motion to postpone indefinitely this case? It was 12089 Meadow Dawn subdivision. Mr. Kange is the mover. Mr. Abel, second. Would you state your motion, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regard to case S12089 Meadow Dawn subdivision, at the request of the petitioner's representative to postpone the case indefinitely, I tend to support this motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Any opposition? The case is postponed indefinitely. In the matter of case 12078 Fairview subdivision, extension number 1, there's a request to postpone this one. To September 3rd, 2014. May I have a positive motion for postponement, please? Mr. Walker. Mr. Kane seconds. Mr. Walker, will you state your motion?
As to case S12078 Fairview subdivision extension 1, I move that the matter be postponed to September 3rd, 2014.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing and seeing none, this case is postponed until September 3rd. Next item on our agenda, appearances. There are no appearances requested tonight, no others tonight. Persons to be heard, I guess Chair gets to go first. We are going to be short at least one board member, and I think I'm not sure who to recommend. If anybody has suggestions, would you please take the responsibility and make the calls and ask whoever you think is appropriate to participate? Everybody knows that typically we don't have a lot of work on this board. We're out of here by 7:30 or sooner often. So that's my request of everybody on the board. If you know anybody who would be appropriate to volunteer, please contact them or have me contact them. All right, then, do you have any secretary? Nope. And we have no committees. Do we have any board member comments tonight? Yes, Mr. Keynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say thank you, everybody. Tonight's my last meeting. I've really enjoyed my 3 years on this board, and it's been great. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I bid you all adieu.
Well, thank you for serving. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Any other board member comments? May I have a positive motion for adjournment? Mr. Keynes, Mr. Walker seconds. We're adjourned. That was fast. You're ready to go. Final act.